क्वेश्चन नंबर 28 करते हैं हडसन. Explain why the directors of Hudson are wrong to classify the basic and additional pension enhancement as part of the remeasurement component, including an explanation of the current treatment for each of these items. Also explain how other restructuring costs should be accounted for. It operates in a refinement benefit scheme for employees. In addition to the directors of Hudson, get an annual bonus depending upon the earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization of Hudson. Hudson has been experiencing losses for a number of years, and its draft financial statements reflect a small loss of the current year, 10 million. On 1st of May 12, Hudson announced that it was restructuring and it was going to close down Division V. A number of redundancies were confirmed as part of the closure, with some staff being reallocated to other divisions. With Hudson, the director approved the restructuring in formal directors meeting. Hudson is highly geared, and much of its debt is secured in covenants which stipulate that a minimum level of net assets should be maintained. The directors are concerned that compliance with IFRS standards could have significant implications for their bonus and debt covenants. Redundancy settlements. Hudson still requires a number of staff to operate Division B until its final expected closure in early 2013. As a consequence, Hudson offered its staff two packages in relation to curtailment of the defined benefit scheme. A pension scheme was offered for all staff who leave before the final closure of Division B. An additional pension enhancement was offered to the staff who remained in employment until the final closure of Division B. The directors of Hudson have only included an adjustment in the financial statements for those staff who left prior to 31st of December 12. The directors have included this adjustment within the remeasurement component of the defined benefit scheme. They do not wish to provide for any other enhancement until employment is finally terminated, arguing that an obligation would only arise once the staff were made redundant. On final termination, the directors intended to include the remaining basic enhancement and additional pension enhancement with the remeasurement component. On final termination, was intended to include the basic enhancement and additional pension enhancement until the remeasurement component was replaced. ठीक है. The directors and accountants are aware that the proposed treatment does not conform to IFRS standards. The directors believe that the proposed treatment is justified as it will help Hudson maintain its debt covenant obligations and will therefore be at the best interests of their shareholders who are the primary stakeholder. The directors have indicated that should the accountant not agree with their accounting treatment, then he will be replaced. Acha. So, according to IFRS 19 employee benefits, uh, the current scenario relates to a termination benefit wherein Hudson has given a pension enhancement which was offered to the staff who leave before the final closure of Division B. Okay, so before the final closure of Division V, however, additional enhancement was offered to staff who remain in employment until the final closure of Division V. So that means that the basic pension enhancement was first given to the employees who left at the moment without their service obligation or without providing their service to Hudson Company. However, some employees stayed in the company until the final closure was in place. This was known as the additional pension benefit. Therefore, the basic pension enhancement will be given to all the employees, irrespective of whether they have left the entity or not. However, the additional pension enhancement will be only given to employees who remain employed till the final closure. Uh, कर्टलमेंट की बात की है कि redundancy is not a remeasurement component, but it is a curtailment component that because of that because there is a change in the number of employees who are working in the entity, है ना? तो ये दो पॉइंट्स आएंगे. So therefore they should not be a part of remeasurement component, they should be a part of curtailment component, ठीक है ना? uh, and treatment of these items also explain how the जो उन्होंने restructuring cost की बात की है, the for the restructuring cost according to IAS 37 provisions contingent liabilities and contingent assets, तो provision क्यों बनता है वो तीन characteristics बता देंगे कि it is it has a present obligation as a result of past event. The economic outflow of benefits or outflow of economic benefits is probable to take place, and a reliable estimate of the amount can be drawn. वो तीन पॉइंट बता देंगे. However, in a provision, however, IAS 37 prohibits the a provision for reallocating or relocation of employees. Only restructuring costs can be included in the only redundancy costs and restructuring costs can be included in the restructuring provision. Thus, a clear assessment or thus a complete assessment of the restructuring costs involved should take place before making any such provisions. ये भी अपन बता देंगे. ठीक है, चेक करते हैं अभी आंसर. ये देखो. According to IS 19, employee benefits remeasurement component is presented in other comprehensive income if it comprises of actuarial gains, return on plan assets not included in the net interest component, changes in the asset ceiling not included within the net interest calculation. Actuarial gains and losses result from differences between actuarial assumptions and what actually occurred during the period. These will arise in instances such as unexpected movement on interest rate, unexpected high or low rate of employee turnover, और अनएक्सपेक्टेड इंक्रीज और डिक्रीज इन वेज. मतलब बेसिकली रीमेजरमेंट कंपोनेंट के टाइम अंदर क्या क्या आ सकता है, तो वो है ये सारी चीजें कि इन रीमेजरमेंट कंपोनेंट व्हाट कैन एक्चुअली कम इज instances with such as unexpected movements on interest rate, unexpected high-low rate of employee turnover, unexpected increase or decrease in the wage rate. Effects of redundancy exercise is not a part of remeasurement component. जो अपन ने भी बोला, redundancy exercise is an example of curtailment because it significantly reduces the number of employees covered by the plan. So, as per IAS 19, present value of the change in the defined benefit obligation as a result of curtailment is a past service cost and should be recognized in the profit or loss. So, जो भी चेंज हो रहा है उसको प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में रिकॉग्नाइज करना चाहिए. फिर ये जो अपन ने बोला कि बेसिक एनहांसमेंट is an obligation that must pay as compensation for terminating the employee service cost regardless of when the employee leaves the entity. IAS 19 employee benefits requires such payments to be recognized at the earlier of when the plan of termination is announced and when the entity recognizes the associated restructuring costs associated with the closure of Hudson should therefore be provided in full for the cost of basic settlement, regardless of whether the staff have left or not. This should be recognized as part of the past service cost in the profit or loss of Hudson for the year ended 31st of December 12. अभी देखते हैं एडिशनल बेनिफिट का उन्होंने कैसे किया है. अच्छा, ये जो है ना रिडंडेंसी कॉस्ट, अभी रिडंडेंसी कॉस्ट को इन्होंने को कैसे ट्रीट किया, इन्होंने पास सर्विस कॉस्ट की तरह ट्रीट किया, इसलिए इन्होंने इस चीज को प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में डाला. क्योंकि अपन ने ऊपर ही डिस्कस किया था कि कर्टेलमेंट है, तो इसलिए इसको पीएनएल में डाला. अभी नीचे देखो, additional pension enhancement is only received by employees who complete service up to the closure of division V. In effect, the enhancement is in exchange for the period of service until redundancy. Hudson should estimate the number of employees who will remain within the Hudson until the closure of V and spread the estimated total cost over the period of service. This should be included within the current service cost, thus having an adverse effect on the profit or loss in both 2012 and 13. तो ये चीज भी 2013 के लेकिन पीएनएल में ही जाएगी और कहीं नहीं जाएगी, ऐसा इन्होंने बस बोला है। फिर ये देखो, रिडंडेंसी कॉस्ट के लिए IAS 37, तो इन्होंने बोला है डिटेल्ड फॉर्मल प्लान ऑफ रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग, अपन ने वो 3 पॉइंट्स बोले थे खाली। और ये देखो मतलब बेसिकली प्रोविजन बनना चाहिए इन सब चीजों के लिए। और डिटेल और डायरेक्ट एक्सपेंडिचर नेसेसरी टू रिजल्ट, तो इन द डायरेक्ट इन द रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग प्रोविजन, ये सब इन्होंने यहाँ पे बोला हुआ है। देखो कुछ कुछ चीजों के बारे में प्रोविजन नहीं बना सकते, सच एज प्रोविजन कैन नॉट बी इंक्लूडेड कॉस्ट ऑफ रीट्रेनिंग रीलोकेटिंग मार्केटिंग, तो ये सब नहीं आएगा, ऐसा इन्होंने बोला है। सो ओवरऑल अपन ने भी सेम ही आंसर दिया है। Explain whether a deferred tax asset can be recognized in the financial statements of Hudson in the year end 31st of December 12. Tax losses. The directors of Hudson wish to recognize a material deferred tax asset in relation to 250 million of unused tax trading losses which have accumulated as at 31st of December 2012. Hudson has budgeted profits of $80 million for the year end and at 31st of December 2013. The directors have forecast that profits will grow by 20% each year of the next 4 years. The market is currently depressed and the sales order. Okay, wait, यहाँ तक पहले आ जाते हैं कि according to IAS 12, income taxes, a deferred tax asset can be recognized for the unused tax losses of the previous years until the tax jurisdiction allows for. In the current year, we can see that ये देखो कहीं पर ना ये लिखा हुआ रहेगा, अभी यार पढ़ लेते हैं। मार्केट depressed for sales order at the lower level of the first quarter of 2013 than they were for the same period of any of the 5 years. Hudson operates under tax jurisdiction, allows trading losses to carry forward. हाँ ये देखो, तो Hudson operates in a tax jurisdiction which allows trading losses to be carried forward for a maximum period of 2 years. तो ये लिख देंगे, so thus only unused tax losses for the last 2 years can be carried forward and be presented as a deferred tax asset. However, there is one more condition that the deferred tax asset should be recognized according to the probable future taxable profits which the company can earn. The future probable taxable profit should be estimated on a reliable on a reliable basis. The However, the evidence of current unused trading losses itself is an indication that it will be difficult for the company to earn future profits. Thus, the unused trading losses which the company has earned should be one-off losses that they've incurred in the years due to certain one-off transactions. Hence, to unused transactions. In the current scenario, we can see that the market is currently depressed and the sales order are at a low level for the first quarter of 2013 than they were for the same period in any of the previous 5 years. Thus, this helps us to understand that or else इसको ऐसा लिखेंगे कि that this is an indication that the future taxable profits to earn future taxable profits might be difficult, and thus the reliable estimate and thus the Hudson's budgeted profit of $80 million is not a reliable estimate. Uh, therefore, therefore, we cannot recognize a deferred tax asset in the financial statements of Hudson for the year ended 31st of December 2012. And ये मैंने यहाँ पे दिया हुआ है. IS 12 says IS 12 says that a deferred tax asset shall be recognized for the carry forward of unused tax losses and unused tax credits to the extent that it is probable that future taxable profit will be available against which the unused tax losses and unused tax credits can be utilized. However, the existence of unused tax losses is a strong evidence that future taxable profit may not be available. Therefore, when an entity has a history of recent losses, the entity recognizes a deferred tax asset arising from the unused tax losses or tax credits only to the extent that the entity has sufficient taxable temporary differences or there is convincing other evidence that sufficient taxable profits will be available against which the unused tax losses or unused tax credits can be utilized by the entity. Next. हडसन ऑपरेट्स अंडर अ टैक्स jurisdiction, जो ये देखो इन्होंने बोला है कि खाली 2 साल तक अलाउ कर सकता है. तो therefore losses before 2011 can no longer be carried forward, and so no deferred tax should be recognized in respect of them. मतलब इन्होंने क्या बोला है कि अभी अपन 13 में बैठे हैं. नहीं नहीं, अभी अपन 2012 में बैठे हैं, तो फिर 12 का लॉस और 11 का लॉस उतना ही ले सकते हैं. उसके पहले का जो लॉस है उसके लिए अपन अपन डेफर्ड टैक्स एसेट नहीं बना सकते. Then the directors of Hudson should base their forecast of future profitability on reasonable and supportable assumption. There appears to be evidence that this is not the case, because वो देखो, एक तो Hudson has a recent history of trading losses, and there is little evidence that there will be improvement in trading results within the next couple of years. The market is depressed, तो फिर इन्होंने ये सारा बता दिया. So it is also likely that Hudson will incur various costs in relation to restructuring. हाँ, तो फिर ये उन्होंने रीस्ट्रक्चरिंग, मतलब ऊपर का जो पॉइंट था ना, वहां से ये वाला पॉइंट ले लिया कि रीस्ट्रक्चरिंग कॉस्ट भी आने वाला है. तो मतलब ये सारे कॉस्ट भी आने वाले हैं. तो रीस्ट्रक्चरिंग इज यूजुअली वन ऑफ कॉस्ट. तो मतलब वन ऑफ कॉस्ट अगर प्रीवियस ईयर्स में था, तो इस साल भी आने ही वाला है फिर से. या अगर प्रीवियस ईयर्स में नहीं था, तो इस साल तो मतलब वन ऑफ कॉस्ट भी आने वाला है. तो अगर वन ऑफ कॉस्ट भी आने वाला है, तो कॉस्ट और बढ़ जाएगा, तो प्रॉफिट कम हुआ करेंगे. The forecast profitability of 2013 and subsequent growth rate therefore appears to be unrealistically optimistic. Given that the losses can only be carried forward for a maximum of 2 years, it is unlikely that any deferred tax asset should be recognized. आगे बढ़ते हैं इसी के साथ. Ethics. Identify any ethical issues which arise from directors' proposed accounting treatment and behavior. Your answer should also consider the implications for the accountant arising from the director's behavior. So the accountant ना, accountant के बारे में ज्यादा information नहीं दी हुई थी. So in the current scenario, uh, we can see that the directors of Hudson are paid an annual bonus depending on the earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Therefore, significant efforts would have been put into place so that the earnings before interest, tax, amortization is turns out to be a healthier figure, so that the directors can earn their annual bonus, thus telling us that directors have a self interest in the EBITDA of the company. um, the directors have the responsibility of presenting fair presentation or preparing financial statements of the entity, which are fairly presented to the investors. Uh, thus, thus, if the directors plan on manipulating the results, then questions can be raised on their integrity towards the investors. In the current scenario, we can also see that Hudson has been experiences losses for a number of years, and its draft financial statements reflect a small loss for the current year of $10 million. As Hudson has been experiencing losses for a number of years, the directors of Hudson would want to represent a profit in order to showcase that they have worked really hard in order to gain their profits for the investors. Close down of V, वो ठीक है. Number of redundancy of formula part, वो ठीक है. The approve the restructuring formal meeting. Hudson has highly geared. हाँ, ये देखो, Hudson is highly geared and much of its debt is secured on covenants which stipulate a minimum level of net assets to be maintained. Therefore, manipulation can take place in order to maintain the level of net assets so that the debt covenants do not get payable. Otherwise, it would raise significant financing and operating difficulties for Hudson Company. Class of IFRS significant implication for the bonus and debt covenant. That the compliance with IFRS standards could have significant implications for their bonus and debt covenants. वो ठीक है. When it came to redundancy and settlement cost, we could see that intended to remain. We could see that directors and accountants were aware that the proposed treatment of the settlement cost was not in line with the IFRS standards. However, still they went ahead with it, thus indicating that they were not fully complying with the IFRS standard, thus raising questions on their objectivity and professional behavior. The directors have proposed treatment as justified as to help them maintain the debt covenant. This treatment was in order to maintain their debt covenants of obligations, because of which it wouldn't be payable or wouldn't get breached. ऐसा लिख देंगे. Um, should we can also see that the directors uh, are trying to intimidate the accountant by telling him that, or by raising questions on him, or by raising concerns on his employment, uh, stating that if he does not comply with whatever they have said, or does not comply with their own accounting treatment, then he will get replaced. The accountant should know his responsibilities, and should discuss the repercussions of the same with the directors. He should comply with the ACCA code of ethics, the basic principles of ACCA code of ethics, which are वो पांच चीजें कि integrity or objectivity, professional competence, due care, confidentiality, and professional behavior. Um, if issues are not resolved by discussing the repercussions and accounting treatment with the directors, then the accountant can seek help from the ACCA helpline. If still there is no help that he could get, और एक्चुअली पहले उसको ऑडिट कमेटी के पास जाना चाहिए, फिर मैनेजमेंट कमेटी के पास जाना चाहिए, नेक्स्ट उसको जाना चाहिए एसीसी हेल्पलाइन के पास. एंड इफ स्टिल द issues are not resolved, and the directors are not agreeing to the accounting treatment and still trying to manipulate the financial statements, then the accountant should resign from his job. अपन ये भी बोल सकते हैं कि सीधा सीधा directors are trying to create a deferred tax asset in order to hide the unused tax losses, or to not hide, but actually trying to create a deferred tax asset which can be used when the profits against the budgeted profits, thus trying to increase the asset base of the company. क्या मैं ये बोल सकता हूँ? चेक कर लेते हैं एक बार. ये देखो, directors have an ethical responsibility to produce the financial statements which are faithfully represented for the entity's transactions. The directors of Hudson are paid bonus based on the earnings. तो ये सब ठीक है. देखो, इनको सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट और ऑब्जेक्टिविटी का थ्रेट है. द डायरेक्टर्स हैव एन इंसेंटिव टू मैनिपुलेट, ये भी ठीक है. सिमिलरली डायरेक्टर्स हैव एन इंसेंटिव टू मैक्सिमाइज एसेट्स एंड मिनिमाइज लायबिलिटी सो दैट हडसन कंप्लाइज विद इट्स डेट कोवेनेंट्स, ये भी इन्होंने बोल दिया. अभी आगे, there is evidence that directors are willing to manipulate the financial statements in a way directly contrary to the ethical principles of integrity and objectivity. Uh, integrity and objectivity. The expenses arising from the basic and additional pension enhancement should be recorded in the profit or loss, but the directors wish to recognize this within other comprehensive income. Despite knowing that it is contrary to the IFRS standards, this would improve proper profitability. Actually मैंने ना इसको ज़्यादा एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया, बट हाँ, एक्चुअली अपन इसको भी एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं कि लोग रीमेजरमेंट कंपोनेंट में वो चीज़ को डाल रहे हैं, मतलब ओसीआई में डालना चाहते हैं rather than showing it in the P&L. एक्चुअली ये चीज़ अपने को क्लिक होनी चाहिए थी, बिकॉज यहाँ पे लोग P&L प्रॉफिट को ज्यादा कर रहे हैं ना, तो ये वाला पॉइंट अपने को नीचे भी डालना चाहिए था, क्योंकि अगर वो लोग ओसीआई में डाल रहे हैं तो फिर प्रॉफिट बढ़ रहा है ऐसा. The directors have not recognized a restructuring provision despite the terms being communicated to the staff. As a result, the profit and net assets are overstated. This may make it more likely that the bonus target is met and the debt covenants are not breached. It is possible that restructuring would be treated as an exceptional cost in the profit or loss and may therefore not impact the bonus. It would therefore be useful to examine the precise terms of the contract in order to assess the potential impact on the bonus. The deferred tax asset is based upon forecast for too long a period एंड इट इज ऑल्सो बेस्ड ऑन अनरियलिस्टिक अजम्पशंस नेट एस। तो अपन को क्या करना है पता है, ऊपर के पॉइंट्स यहाँ पर कॉपी पेस्ट करना है, जो अपन ने ऊपर फर्स्ट टू क्वेश्चन में लिखेंगे वही अपने को यहाँ पर भी डालने हैं। देन क्या है वो, cost of profit and loss and therefore not impact the bonus. It would therefore be useful to examine the precise terms of the contract in order to assess the potential impact on the bonus. That the deferred tax is based upon forecast for too long, what ये बोल दिया, the directors explanation for their proposed treatments are not justified. Directors are appointed to run the business on behalf of the company shareholders who are the primary stakeholder. It will be the shareholders' interest for the company to be profitable and to maintain net assets with the debt covenant stipulations. However, this should not be at the expense of the credibility and transparency of the financial statements. Deliberate manipulation of financial statements will reduce stakeholders' confidence in the reliability of financial statements and the accountancy profession as a whole. The director's actions with regard to accountant are contrary to the ethical principles of professional behavior. It appears that the directors have put accountant under undue pressure to falsify the financial statements to meet their own needs. Then intimidation threat to objectivity arises from the directors, implying that the accountant would lose their job should they not comply with the director's instructions. तो ये तो अपने बोला हुआ है इंटिमिडेशन थ्रेट के बारे में। और फिर देखो, द अकाउंटेंट वुड इज आल्सो बाउंड बाय द एसीसीए कोड ऑफ एथिक्स एंड मस्ट एडhere टू द सेम एथिकल प्रिंसिपल्स, जो अपन ने पांच बोले वही। दे मस्ट नॉट देयरफॉर कंप्लाई विद द डायरेक्टर्स इंस्ट्रक्शंस एंड शुड इंस्टेड रिमाइंड द डायरेक्टर्स ऑफ देयर ऑब्लिगेशंस टू कंप्लाई विद दिस कोड। ये भी अपन ने बोला था रिपरकशंस के पॉइंट के हिसाब से। And then, should the accountant feel unable to approach the directors directly, they could consider talking to those charged with governance and, in particular, non-executive directors to explain the situation. Accountant could also seek help from ACCA Ethical Helpline and take legal advice. Ultimately, if the situation cannot be resolved, the accountant could consider resigning and seeking employment elsewhere. ये भी अपन ने बोला, मतलब अपन ने उसको रिजिग्नेशन बोला था, बट दे हैव सेड सीकिंग एम्प्लॉयमेंट एल्सवेयर, मतलब ये एक तरीके से रिजिग्नेशन। ठीक है। थैंक यू, बाय।